July 19th, 2017. So before we get into talk about the agenda, my name is John Weiss, and to my left is
George Morse.
Jim Robinson.
Rachel McManus.
Elizabeth Mitchell.
Pete Nichols.
Martha Taylor.
So we have on our agenda tonight a couple of procedural things at 7 o'clock. At 7:05, Mr. Luster is here to talk about an OSRD on 170 Orchard Street. And at 7:15, we have a public hearing continuation for site plan review for the Newbury Golf Center at Scotland Road. And then we carry on after that to some issues regarding recreational marijuana, what we want to do about that relative to bringing it forward, and then also a report to us on Byfield Estates, because they had their a meeting on Monday of this week. And then we have a master plan progress report as well. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. And so with that, do you have your financials? So this is a new procedure that we do have, that the chair of the board needs to not only sign these documents, but then report on it out in public. So these are payroll warrants of the June 10th, June 24th, and June 30th for the town planner, and also expenses for the town planning department for Verizon Wireless on June 20th, employee expense reimbursements on the 7th and the 30th of the month for mileage, Minuteman Press and business cards on the 21st, MVPC, which is an Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, Pictometry, which assists us in analyzing data on GIS, and MVPC MyMap, which is similar. So those are the things that we signed, or I signed this month. So with that, Mr. Luster, we have not met, so come on forward and tell us what you're interested in doing.
Thank you. My name is William Luster. I'm with a partner in Charing Cross Viewing Trust. With me tonight is Chris Mello from Eastern Land Survey. And we're proposing what we hope to do an OSRD subdivision or an OSRD plan at 170 Orchard Street in Newbury. I'm going to leave you with two things. One is just a little information about Charing Cross, what we've been doing the last 46 years. So just get a little sense with some references and places that we were. I just want to leave with you. And the second is a PowerPoint presentation that I won't go through in great detail tonight because we're just here informally and we appreciate the opportunity to be here informally. And if anyone is not interested in taking that home with them, we'd happily take them back so we can use them again. To produce these things when we don't have to. So with Charing Cross Realty, we do medium-sized residential, single-family residential home development. We typically try to do nowadays small lots and small to medium homes. So when we see an OSRD opportunity, we like to take it. Chris is going to run through very quickly what we're showing very initially for Orchard Street. But over the past 46 years, Charing Cross has done about 3,500 residential units. 3,250 of them or so in very high density mill redevelopment, subsidized housing, starting in 1971. In the last 15 or 20 years, we've developed a single family home and condominium business that has kept us very busy. Currently, we're just finishing a single family residential development of 14 units in Swampscott, Mass, where we bought the land from the town, who had advertised an RFP for a mid-rise building of 42 units, and we responded with a plan for 14 homes rather than a 42-unit mid-rise building. It was right in the middle of the neighborhood. They liked our plan and they selected us. The second project we're just finishing up are 20 duplex units in Wenham, Massachusetts, where we have one. In each development, we have one left. They're both under purchase and sale agreement. Of the 14 units and the 20, we have two left. We had just started two developments, 24 homes in Bridgewater, Mass, single-family homes. It's a 40B, and 12 homes in Acton, Mass. That is also a 40B. We are not proposing a 40B here tonight. In Newbury, we're proposing to show you a yield plan for a 14 lot subdivision, which we would like to turn into a 14 lot OSRD approved plan. One of the tenets of our company is if we find an old building, we like to keep it. If we look at a piece of land, we like to keep a lot of the naturally occurring phenomena in place. So Chris is going to run you through very quickly, because I know you have scheduled for just a quick kind of description. What we're showing, where we're showing it, and what we're going to propose at some point.
I guess before you do it, when would you, based on this is just an informational session,
Sure.
when would you think that you would come forward with an official submission?
August? Soon, yeah.
We were in a position, I'm sorry, my name is Chris Mello from Eastern Land Survey.
Okay.
The plans. We're in a position to file an ANRAD Conservation Commission to confirm the delineation of the resource areas on site
Okay.
very quickly, and once that is going, we put together our definitive OSRD.
Okay. Thanks.
So, that being said, what we have is a large open field, you're probably all familiar with it, on Orchard Street. It's a farm of which a couple of house lots were cut out on the Orchard Street through the A&R process, I believe in the late 90s, possibly early 2000. And what we propose to do is to come in here, hopefully with an OSRD. And we have, in the lower end here will be the proof plan, which would be 14 lots in conformance with the zoning of acre and 125 feet of frontage. Would bring us through here. The pink is just the lot numbers, but they're all quite spacious lots, a couple hundred feet deep, and the 125 feet of frontage. We would bring a roadway through geometrically out onto Pearson Drive.
So have you seen this yet, Martha, in terms of analyzing it?
No, the last one, we did meet, but it showed a cul-de-sac for the plan.
We spoke with, when we
And we
met
did talk-
quickly with Martha, she explained to us what a yield plan needed to contain that had to be buildable. So we have reached terms with an owner on Pearson to purchase their property if needed and have an access point through to prove our proof plan. We really prefer the OSRD plan, and we hope the planning board will make a formal presentation.
And you have an agreed P&S with the
An
Bulgaris
option.
Trust, with an option with the Bulgaris Trust?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, we have a P&S with Bulgaris Trust, and we have an option.
An option on that property?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So taking us from the definitive subdivision under the rules and regulations of the roadway and conforming lots, and now we've come back and we're looking at 14 lots between 8 and 10,000 square feet, which would feature homes very similar to the outline that Mr. Luster has provided, similar to the homes we've been building in Swampscott. They're cottage looking, they fit in very nice and they worked out well. What we would do with that is we would bring a water line off of Orchard Street where we have water. We would have a common septic system out in the back to provide for the 14 lots. And we would have stormwater at various places to provide for the increase in runoff on the road. And that would leave us with almost 16 acres of open space. What I've done here is I've delineated the resource areas that we have on site. They show up very nice on this in the green. There are 3 distinct wetland communities. They also show up here, and you can see we've basically built around them, trying to stay not only out of the buffer, out of obviously the resource area, but out of the buffer zone where possible. That would give us the ability to leave a buffer along the Pearson Drive existing homes, leave a buffer throughout the entire project, and have the ability to enter the open space at several areas that would provide some trails. A lot of it, almost out to this wetland here, is corn. And it's growing quite nicely, I might add, quickly. But we would be able to get down behind here and through the resource area in the back, and we have the river on the, I guess that's the westerly side. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. We would be looking for the OSRD, which would provide room to build those houses with significant setbacks, allow for on-site parking and things of that nature.
Is your proposed drive between the gray building that was recently rehabbed and the new construction of the white building?
Yes.
Okay.
The old farmer's house is right here.
Okay.
The new building is on that lot there, so we'd be coming right through there. Gentleman has, this is.
And
this
so
is
that
original
actually
property.
is a lot? Is that a lot you're coming in on?
No,
What
that's
is that?
actually, that's what's left of the A and R lot. They left a 50-foot strip.
They left a
between these two
strip
lots.
between them?
Yes.
When was that? Do you remember when that would have been done?
That was actually, I
I
would say,
have-
2009,
Nine.
2010,
Okay.
something like that.
So they did that with this idea in mind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, they took 3 lots, 1, 2, and 3, off of the Orchard Street frontage and left that 50-foot strip to develop the remaining 20-odd acres.
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer any questions on, in general, where we're headed.
No, at this point.
If you go to the end of the PowerPoint that I sent, you'll see 2 or 3 home designs. Those aren't necessarily what we're proposing here, but they kind of speak the same language as what we would propose here. We use the same designer.
Some time ago, we were doing some work with the green companies,
They use art form architecture as well.
and they did a very successful project up in Newburyport.
Oleo Woods, yeah.
And so if you had that in mind.
We have
good idea.
a very similar project in Swampscott. We use the same homes that Oleo Woods used. It's very small lots. The town was selling it because they purchased it to put town hall and a police station in. They chose not to build it there after 2 or 3 years, so they put it on the market through an RFP. We won the RFP and decided to do a very small lot subdivision. These are between 5,000 and 7,000 square feet, but it's very similar to Oleo Woods, except it's
And the structure's like 2,200 square feet?
They're,
26?
they started out at about 2,200 square feet, but once by the time we actually built them and hit the market, they had grown to the mid-2000s, 2,600.
And your target market price?
They sold, so 13 of them sold for an average sale price in Swampscott of mid to high 6s. We'd be a little lower than that here, but probably begins with a 6,
Mhm.
low 6s.
You're aware that there's a 40B on the other side of
We are.
Wilson Drive?
We do,
Down here somewhere.
Right about where you had your hand.
Right there.
we're doing 340Bs now. We know how to do them, we do them well, but we prefer to not do one if we have the opportunity. If you provide an opportunity like the OSRD, we prefer that.
Mhm.
We love a small lot, medium-sized home, leaving some open space behind. And in this case, this is about 150,000 square feet of lot space and just under 16 acres of open space by my definition, not necessarily open space by the definition of OSRD, but probably pretty close to that by the OSRD definition.
Martha? To just track it and wait for it to come in?
Yeah, I think so. So you think you'll be filing the ANRAD soon with the Conservation Commission?
I provided the package to Mr. Luster, it's ready to go.
We're just making a final decision on a regionally local attorney. We like to hire from the area, so in terms of hiring an attorney. So as soon as we figure that out in the next couple of weeks, we'll make our submittal.
Have you had any conversations with Doug Packer, our conservation agent?
Not yet, not yet. We thought we'd start here, but we're happy to go there next.
Seems to be busy out on the island.
So no other questions, no other thoughts? We'll just wait for it to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you have that done and you really have the resource areas down, you'll have a better idea of.
Yeah, we've had the wetlands flagged by Wetland and Land Management out of Danvers, so it's somebody that I've used all the time. We're confident that we've got a good delineation, and we'll go through Concom, and don't expect much to move, if anything.
And you'll be expected to have some discussions with neighborhood residents?
Yep. We'll start there if people, we'll talk to the town.
Well, you figure it out and talk to
Yeah.
Martha about it.
Okay.
One question, I see some water running through there. Are there any perennial streams on the site that?
No, what we've got is, I've got off of the maps, they're calling it Indian River. Anybody disagree with that?
Don't know it.
It's the only thing I could come up with from the USGS and town maps. I know we've got Closer Brook Lane over here, and I couldn't find the name on that, but We do have a river, subject to the act, 200-foot buffer from that, because it definitely moves.
Yeah, definitely.
And we've got our 200-foot buffer line that sits right there, and there's no construction in the 200-foot buffer at all. You know, we're really, we'd like to stay out of the buffer, make the conservation issues jurisdictionally minimal. There's no point, we've got a lot of acreage to work with, there's no real point of going into the buffer zones if we don't have to.
What are the brown areas?
Those are the potential septic areas of leaching. Actually, we had the benefit of about 30 or maybe even more soil test pits that were done, I guess 2009, when the A&R lots went out. So we've got very good soil, very consistent soil, and we'll be doing additional tests with the health agent for that area as we get into the
Just out of curiosity, have you ever looked at packaged treatment plants as a means of dealing with solid waste?
We've typically stayed below 48 bedrooms, and as a result of that, we kind of get to a septic field rather than package treatment plants. We're intrigued by them because we do look at land, and we're kind of tempted to get into something that would be more than the 10,000 gallon limit, but we haven't done it yet.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
We've got a couple of 9,900 gallon systems that stay below that threshold.
Every
Yeah.
time we bring it up,
Amazing, huh?
he hollers at me. 'Cause he
Yeah.
says, he says, no, we don't want to start that. But I think we do want to learn a little bit about it.
So do we. You okay? Marina?
One other question, so what number Pearson Drive are you looking at for coming through with the through road?
I do not know, I'm sorry. Do you
It's
know?
it's the Baker residence, they don't know the address.
Yes.
Anybody from the audience want to comment or bring something forward on this? Well, we'll see you in a while.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming by.
Appreciate it. Get to know each other well.
Thank you.
Nice
What do you think
presentation.
again?
I'm going to keep it.
Thanks.
You did? You didn't give me a test?
I think the name Sharon Cross.
Cross Road. That's a good movie.
I do.
I'm just continuing this one.
Pardon me, Kristen.
Wow. How you doing? Good. Kind of getting through it all?
Getting there, yeah.
Spending a lot of time in Newbury, right?
When you're ready, I'll open. Okay. You ready? Okay, now I'd like to open and continue the public hearing on the, what's the official name? It's the Newbury Golf Center, 131, 133, 151 Scotland Road, applicant is Eric Sorensen. This is a site plan review as opposed to the meeting that was held last Tuesday with the Board of Selectmen. Their purview is special permit. Planning Board was unable to be there at that meeting, and so we're having this meeting, and in all probability, based on the fact that the Selectmen have set a meeting on the 8th, that we will probably carry our, and meet as a group finally on the 8th with the Planning Board and the Board of Selectmen, so that we can talk together about all the various issues, because some of them are their issues, some are ours, but some of them are cross-fertilized, okay? But the purpose of today is to go over the issues that do pertain to site plan review, and I'd like to, because every time we have a site plan or a special permit, that is our purview, just as I think someone did for the Board of Selectmen in their criteria. I'd like to go through our decision criteria so that everybody understands what we need to do as a board and what our obligations are for the project. And so we have in our bylaw decision criteria for site plan review. And so Article 6 says the planning board shall approve an application for site plan review if it finds that the applicant has submitted sufficient information from which it can determine that the proposed project will, then A, it's a series of minimizes here, minimize the volume of cut and fill, the number of removed trees 6-inch caliber or larger. Number 3, the area of wetland vegetation displaced. Number 4, soil erosion. Number 5, the threat of air and water pollution. And 6, traffic congestion. The modifiers of all of that are to minimize those elements. B, avoid removal of existing stone walls, or where removal is required, minimize length of removal. C, provide adequate stormwater management and other utilities consistent with the requirement of Newbury's stormwater bylaw and the planning board's subdivision rules and regulations. D, maximize safety for pedestrians and vehicles, both on the site and entering onto and egressing from it. E, provide adequate access to each structure for fire and emergency service equipment. F, minimize obstruction of scenic views from publicly accessible locations. G, minimize visual intrusion by controlling the visibility of parking, storage, or other outdoor service areas viewed from public ways or premises residentially used or zoned. H, minimize intrusion of glare from headlights and site lighting on surrounding properties. I, minimize unreasonable departure from the character, materials, and scale of buildings in the vicinity as viewed from public ways and places. J, prevent contamination of groundwater from any source. K, enhance the appearance of the property to the greatest degree possible by means of landscaping and other site amenities. L, minimize impacts of the use on adjacent properties through regulation of hours of operation, deliveries, noise, rubbish, removal, and on-site storage. And M, ensure compliance with the provisions of Newbury's zoning bylaw, including parking and signs, and then notwithstanding the above regulations, blah, blah, blah. And then there's one other thing I want to go into. We have a series of elements that relate to conditions of approval, but I just want to read the first part of it, which says that site plan approval may be made subject to such conditions, modifications, and restrictions as the planning board may deem necessary in order to satisfy any of the decision criteria that I've just gone through. Okay? So that's, I do that at the beginning of any session like this, because when we come to a decision, we go through every one of these. And the board members then come up and say, well, we believe it does this, we don't believe it does this. We think we need to do this, we think, and we have opinions about it, and we make judgments on it. So we do it in the beginning of the process, and then at the end when we're about to make a decision, we use the decision criteria to help us through. Okay? So with that, Richard, you're going to give us a little presentation.
I don't know how little it'll be, but I'm
Well, I don't know. First of all, how many board members were able to see the meeting from last week on TV?
I was not.
Not? All right, I saw it. But, so, do as much as you need to do on
we'll figure
the
that out.
Suwaka stuff. I know there's some new information
Sure.
that we found out today. Maybe you want to start with that? I don't
Sure,
know.
I've got a lot, but we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
What the board's preferences. For the record, Rick Wade, Principal, Meridian Associates. Our team, starting from your left, Attorney Michael Rosen, the applicant, Eric Sorensen, our project manager from Meridian, Mike Novak, and our landscape architect, sitting over there, Jackie Trina.
And Mike Berry.
And we have a lighting consultant that's going to be doing a presentation also. I think I'd like to briefly go over some of the changes to the site plan that have happened since the first meeting that happened with the board, and they're extremely minor. The wood line on this side of the property has been moved in about 20 to 30 feet. And the wood line here from our site visit moved in another 15 feet after the site visit that we had. Originally, our first plan had about 15 acres of clearing in here. We're down to 10.5 acres of clearing now on the entire site. Those are really, there's some minor grading changes that were done up here to deal with drainage issues. And I don't think there's any other substantive changes to the plan other than that. Last night, Conservation approved this project with 3 conditions, 3 special conditions. They have standard conditions, probably 2 or 3 pages of standard conditions. They had 3 special conditions. I'll go over each one of them briefly with you. In this area here, around this wetland, we have a 15-foot high mesh fence that was put there to, at their concern, to stop golf balls from potentially going into this resource area. One of their conditions was that if over time they see that not being effective, they may ask us to raise that fence to 20 or 25 feet. The second condition was regarding curbing on the entire site, which we propose as bituminous Cape Cod berm. And they put a condition in there that said they will monitor that very closely, and if they find that curbing to be disturbed, broken up due to snow plows or whatever, that they will come back to us and tell us we have to go to a granite or concrete type curbing that will not break up. And lastly, they put a condition in there to resolve the issue on this pond, which I will get into in a moment, which is one of the 2 remaining comments from the peer review consultant. That issue was a drawdown issue, because this is a water feature product that they were concerned that in any 72-hour period that water feature be brought down to a certain elevation. Today, he had a really good day today. With the help, and his name was? James Surratt from DPW came out, was incredibly helpful to try to resolve an issue that has come up, I think, at, maybe it was just a selectman meeting, I'm not sure, regarding the locations of manholes within Scotland Road, and specifically how we're tying in. Can you go to the blow up?
This one?
So I'm going to walk over here, if you don't mind, briefly, and then I'm going to walk back. So we propose to tie in from this drainage structure here, and one of the comments from the peer review consultant was he didn't understand how we were making this connection if we couldn't see into it. Issue 1. The second issue that came up with the selectmen was, what is the status of these manholes here, catch basins, manholes, that we're tying into that system? Since we couldn't open them, they had concern. So today, with the help of DPW, they came out and located all of these manholes and catch basins, topped every single one of these, every one of them very clean, no silt built up in them at all. This guy here, they couldn't find. So the manhole that we're tying into, we had already previously opened up. We had rims and inverts shown on our plan, pipes coming in and going out. So forget about this catch basin for a second. We had this manhole shown, these inverts, rims, everything shown, the size and types of pipe, but we couldn't figure out where it went from here. And the reason we couldn't figure out, we knew there was a pipe going in, the reason we couldn't figure out, this catch basin was under 2 to 3 inches of sod, completely covered over with grass. So Mr. Surratt dug that out for us, popped the remaining covers of the catch basins, and got down in there and located everything. And from here, it connects to here, to this catch basin, to this catch basin, and discharges across the street, all perfectly clear. One of the issues that he raised in the peer review comments letter was that these lines are 8 inches. As you can see on the plan, they're 8 inch. And we're proposing to tie in with a 12 inch. So one of the comments that I'll probably get to in a little bit, again, is, And I'm going to read it. In his letter dated July 19th, there are 2 highlighted comments. I'll talk about each of them already. He was at the site with Mr. Surratt today, by the way, the peer review consultants there for, I believe, the entire time. And this memo came after his site visit. Relative to this matter, I attended a site inspection this morning with the engineer, town DPW staff, James Surratt, and the applicant. Eric was there, people from my office were there. A 12-inch pipe comes into a catch basin from the manhole. An 8-inch pipe appears to come from the catch basin from the east, and an 8-inch outlet pipe appears to connect to the catch basin approximately 200 feet west on Scotland Road. These assumptions should be verified by the engineer with further site investigations or water testing. We now appear to have a situation where much of the site runoff will be directed to this existing 8-inch drain pipe after passing through the 12-inch pipe, which we're proposing. Hydraulically, this is not desirable, and I doubt the engineer can demonstrate that, and the existing 8-inch pipe has adequate capacity. DPW staff and I appear to agree that the engineer should look into replacing the 8-inch pipe. And that 8-inch pipe, I want to be very clear, he's suggesting that the 8-inch pipe here be replaced by the applicant.
Am I right, just that going across the street, it's 12?
Correct.
So it's just, looks like maybe 200 linear feet or something like that, am I
Correct.
reading that correct?
Yes. So, issue 1. In a memo that we received late this afternoon from Martha Taylor, and I'll read that. It says, attached, please find the peer review letter 3 from our review engineer, Joe Sawatka. As you will see, many of his original comments have been addressed. However, there are 2 significant outstanding issues to do with the water feature, stormwater basin, and to do with the existing drainage system on Scotland Road. Based on site investigation that was conducted this morning, I have highlighted the paragraphs pertaining to those, and that's what I was just reading from. So I've just gone over the first issue with you, and our position clearly has been at each board level that at the point we're making this connection, and from the entirety of the site. So our connection is here, which then connects into this system, that we are not increasing the rate or the volume of runoff to that pipe in any way, shape, or form. That's been reviewed by our peer review consultant and approved by Conservation last night. So we can get into the discussion of whether or not it's applicable to require the applicant to upgrade the town's system, but clearly we are not adding any water to that, any additional water to that system.
Where are those calculations?
They were reviewed by Joe.
By Joe?
Yes.
All right, I guess we'll need to have a discussion. And his statement to you was that there was no increase in runoff?
We can go through every one of his comments. Never in there, he's gone through all this. He signs off on all of these comments and then leaves these 2 issues on the table. This being the first one that we're talking about.
Okay.
And it's been very clear, Conservation approved it without any consideration of this last night. It's a key point.
Were they aware that there were 8-inch lines in the street?
No, not
It's not at that point last night. But they made it very clear that they understood fully well that our project is not increasing any rate or volume of runoff into that drainage system. Extremely clear on that point. The second issue deals with a water feature here, which we have a clay barrier at the bottom so we can keep the water in here at a set elevation. And the engineer's, Joe's comment was that he wants to see a drawdown calculation to prove to him that that water will return to elevation 42.5 within 72 hours of a major storm event. It is not a significant issue. It's just a detail Conservation made that a condition of approval that those calculations be submitted to Joe and back to them. So those were the three conditions that Conservation put on the
Yeah, so
project.
there was one additional issue from last night, as I recall, and that was the finalization of the stormwater pollution and control.
That's a condition that goes, you never file the SWIP until you get your approvals in 30 days before you start construction. So that is
It's
a
not standard.
general standard condition. One of the things that you cleared up at the last selectmen's meeting because it was brought up at the prior meeting that some of you were at, a comment from someone in the audience said that we couldn't have a building within 500 feet of the Fish and Game property up here. And we presented information that clearly demonstrated that there are no regulations whatsoever that require that. And actually, that same gentleman spoke that at the last selectmen meeting and verified that fact. So that was put behind us. The other thing, and I've got information here and I can break it out if the chair wants us to, was a comment at the first meeting that we are within a water supply district. We are clearly not in a water supply district. We are in a water contribution area and an ORW, which is a resource area, not a water supply district. So those regulations do not apply to us. All set? Thank you. One of the things that I did at the last selectmen's meeting was I had several comments regarding one of the abutters letters to the board. I'm not going to do that tonight. What I'd like to do is to bring up a slide that I showed to the selectmen and give you some facts rather than rebut that letter tonight. The schematic with the distances on it. That one.
That one? That one.
Nope, last one.
That one.
Nope. You have it updated, it has all the distances across
That was the,
It's the display plan.
this plate. Yep, control.
there.
Back. Since my eyes aren't that good, I'm gonna put this up here so that I can see it. And I just want to point out some actual dimensional facts rather than guessing at what these numbers are. So if you're following the board up here, our tee boxes and our grass tees up here. I've put on the plan that's up there and here many dimensions from the various tee boxes to various points. So I'm just going to take them as I come to them from the bottom. From the bottom to the closest point in this tee box up to the edge of the wood line here is 950 feet or 317 yards. The elevation change is approximately 12 feet. This is 12 feet higher than it is here. This point being at the very, very top of the hill, which I'll get to in a moment, for visual impacts to the abutter on this side. From this tee box to the tree line, 1,040 feet, 327 yards. From the grass tees to this fifth green target, 236 yards. From this tee box to the wood line, 327 yards. All of these have elevation changes that range from 8 to 12 feet higher at this end than they are at the tee box. From the wood line, and this is densely wooded from the wood line back to the property line. Anybody that was at the site clearly saw that standing in this backyard, all of this was heavily wooded, probably on average of 40 to 50 foot high trees. Densely vegetated at this point, realizing that those vegetation does come off for 4 or 5 months of the year. From this point to the corner of the yard here, 114 additional yards. From this point here to the property line, 64 more yards. From the property line to the house, She has stated it's 53 feet. I'm being conservative, I'm saying it's 50 feet. Magical line shown right here, in this blue line is 289.9 yards from the tee boxes. So from any point here, this is 289.9 yards. That represents the PGA Tour average drive from professional golfers. That can be found on PGAtour.com. So we clearly feel that there is nobody that will be able to hit the ball from any of these tee boxes, even to this wood line. And if they did, then they have an additional 60 to 70 yards through very heavily wooded area to ever get the ability to get down in here. It's not going to happen. The last thing, and you probably can see it better in the bottom right-hand corner, was we drew a section right through here to demonstrate the visual impacts that this course would have on this abutter. So you can see, following my arrow down here, that this blue line is the existing grade. The red line is the proposed grade. The proposed stopping at the very top of the hill. I purposely did not load up this section with 40-foot high trees. I didn't want to insult anybody. I left them off. The mere purpose, even without any trees on this slope, the line of sight, this is a person, 5.5 foot tall, line of sight through here puts you out into space. You will never be able to see any portion of that range from down there. Anybody that walked down to this property here clearly saw that you could see up to the top of the hill. You could actually see where we hung the red flag for this clear line, which actually since that meeting moved 15 more feet this way, that there's no possible way that anybody can see up and then back down. The other issue was a lot of discussion about the stump pile here. Two things on the stump pile. One, there was some mention that it might not be good for the environment. We did some research, as well as Mr. Packard did some research, and found nothing to support that it's environmentally not sensitive to buried stumps. The second point was that, and you'll see, I think in a few moments, that we're willing to condition the location is shown here, to condition the height, the final height of the stump dump, which will be covered with dirt. And I believe that was at elevation 87, which is 5 feet lower than the top of that hill, or 5 feet lower than this point here. So again, there will be no way of having any visual impact to see that. Will eventually be an earthen berm at that point. Mr. Sorensen has publicly stated at the last selectmen's meeting that he's willing to put money in escrow, largely for the protection of viewports into this property. The Carbonis, although quite frankly they are in opposition to this project, have been wonderful people, very kind. They've asked that we maintain and keep all the vegetation along this line. They have not asked for very much at this point as far as screening is concerned. So Mr. Sorensen is willing to put money in escrow that should viewports become unlikable for them, that they have the right to draw on those, and Mr. Sorensen would have the responsibility to close up any of those viewports. Certainly becomes pretty difficult at this point of the year. The viewports are non-existent really because the vegetation is so tight in there. There are two last things that I think we'd like to go over. One, Mr. Chairman, your opening comments about your criteria. Our team, through our legal counsel, has put a memo together that we'll share with you in a few minutes addressing each and every one of those criteria. The last issue that I would like to do before we get to that memo is to go over lighting, and for that I would like to invite you up to say a few words. But before you do, this is one of the graphics that we used, and it looks a lot nicer up there. Technology on your left, back in the heyday, a lot of people are still using that. For those of you who have gone to Sun and Air, the technology at Sun and Air probably between the first and the second one. I think you can guess what technology we're going to use, and that's the one on the far right. And with that lead-in, presentation will follow shortly, and then I'll return to the memo.
Yeah, it's over there. So. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, my name is Mike Berry from Musco Lighting. Yeah, I did a visit to the Sun and Air location last week just to see what everybody's kind of reference point was in terms of a driving range. And the technology that's used there is what we were doing back in 1977, which was the spun aluminum housing. Let's see. This type of fixture here. The technology and the process then was they put 25-foot poles and you blast light out to where the ball is hit and where the ball is landing. This slide here kind of shows you the evolution that we've gone through over the years since 1977 when we were doing the spun aluminum housing to looking at different ways to minimize the impact to abutters and to the environment. We inserted diffusers in the bottom of the visors to cut down on the glare that comes out of the bottom of the fixture. 89, we added visors over the top of the fixture to cut down on that sky glow. And we even went to painting them black to try and minimize even more of that sky glow. It's what we came out with in 2005, which is our light structure green, which was the most efficient, still is the most efficient metal halide fixture on the market. This is the fixture that was at Triton for several years. Up until last year, we just retrofitted the poles there to the light structure green fixture here. So you have a close reference in terms of what the technology is. This is representing the LED technology. Every meeting I go to nowadays is talking about LED, and everything wants to go LED. Sports lighting's a little different. The hours of usage aren't as high, so not every project benefits from going to LED. The energy saving just isn't really there compared to this or this. The benefits of the LED fixture is the reduced glare and the reduced spill. You can see from this slide here how much glare is coming out of those fixtures from 1977 to what today's fixture and the glare that comes out of that. These are all mounted at the same elevation, 50-foot pole. You're 150 feet from that pole. So you can see how much light is actually coming out of that. If you can't see the light source, you can't see glare. That is the design concept behind what we're trying to do with our LED fixture. This is just kind of give you an idea of how the system goes together. If you've ever gone to Triton, before or now, you'll see the precast concrete base, galvanized steel pole, electric enclosure is 10 feet above grade, and at the top is the luminaires. Again, those are metal halide. The difference being what we're proposing here at Newbury Golf is an LED fixture. It is a rectangle shaped fixture versus a round fixture, but the idea is the exact same. We warranty it for 25 years, means Musco maintains it. Same thing they have at Triton. Anything goes wrong with it, Musco maintains it.
So is it multiple fixtures like that, or is it one?
What we have at proposed here is 4 on each pole. So that one that you see on the right only has 2, but we're proposing for this area, for the driving range specifically, is 4. The green area, they have 3 fixtures on them. The putting green and the chipping green.
So the thing on the far right is not a correct representation?
Yeah, that has 2, but the idea concept behind it, what we're showing here is the evolution of energy savings as well, where you used to take 4 fixtures to now it takes 2 to light the same area. So the energy savings is what that's representing on top of the glare reduction. The other big factor that comes up a lot in projects that I get to present at is the concept that a shorter pole is better, because if it's shorter, then I won't see it. With sports lighting, we have to light everything from the perimeter. We can't have poles in the middle of a football field. You can't have poles in the middle of a driving range. Just gives you a target and something to get damaged. So we're trying to light everything from the perimeter. The aiming point does not change in terms of where we're trying to aim, but if we go with a shorter pole, what we have to do is increase our aiming angles, therefore increasing your glare. So if we go with a taller pole, we can direct the light down, so those butters and people that are driving down the road or across from that do not see that source of light. If you ask them to do that slide there with a 30-foot pole, you're all of a sudden going to see that LED fixture because I have to still aim to that middle of that field, that target area. What we've proposed here is 50-foot poles for the driving range area and for the putting green area. The parking lot, the pathway, the roadway, we have 35-foot poles, and those are LED fixtures aimed straight down. With parking lot poles, it's 3 times the height is how much you can space them apart. So if you have a shorter pole, you just have to put more of them for a parking lot.
So how many poles are you proposing and where are they located?
They are, so all of you have a lighting design right here. You can see the number of poles is the number of poles we have are the ones around the perimeter here of the driving range.
So I'm looking at RA1, 2.
Yep. And then RB on the bottom side, and then T1, 2, and 3. Those are your T-box poles.
And what about B3, 4?
Those are berm fixtures. What those do is they illuminate the ball so they can track it in flight. They're not actually poles, they're just fixtures that are down in the berms, just aiming some light up so that from a play.
Uplighting.
Yeah. What's that?
Uplighting?
Yes. Yep. For golf, it is not only seeing where your ball goes, where it lands on the ground, but also seeing it in flight. So when we look at lighting guidelines for golf, we have horizontal light levels, plus you want vertical light levels, which is how you see your ball in flight. Because the cutoff is so sharp with the LED fixture, if they hit it above that cutoff, they would lose sight of the ball. So we have to have some, what we call ball tracking fixtures. But it's not what people think of in terms of a spotlight aiming straight up, or you're going to see that. It's producing actually less uplight than if you were to take a floodlight and aim it up that way.
And there are just 2 light stanchions behind the hitting area, T1 and T2, T2 and T3, is
Yep.
that right? And
Yep.
then T1 over here.
Correct, that's the grass, and then those are the mats. Yeah, we have, again, ISNA calls for 20-foot candles, which is amount of light in that T-box area. Give you
And each one of these is the 4 elements, 4 heads.
your T-poles, they have, let's see, we've got, those have 5 fixtures on them. T1 has 6 because it's a bigger area trying to do from that. So you're trying to spread it across that whole T-box area, that's why we have 3 poles.
So now what about going up the driveway?
Yep.
What do you have there?
We have, if you turn the page, that's the greens. So that is the driveway and parking area. We have a 25-foot pole with, all of them have 1 fixture on it.
Okay, here.
Yep, page. But yeah, the one, yep, that's the one.
And so there are, looks like 9 lights that are on the driveway. Is that correct? I'm going from P1 to P9.
The poles?
Yep.
Yep.
And they're 50 feet high?
P1 through P15 are the parking lot poles and driveway. Those 15.
And so they, again, they're
25-foot poles.
These are 25?
Yep.
All of them?
Yep.
Is there any lighting which is like at the base level, like within bollards or anything like that?
Nope, not that we have proposed or designed, no. What's that?
What about down on these 2 greens?
Yep, that is back 1 page. We've got 4 poles. Again, those are 50-foot poles. Those are designed that way so that we're aiming straight down on those greens because we know that you've got the road right there. So we want to be right on top of it, illuminating the green area.
Are those foot candles?
Yep.
Yeah.
All these are photometric designs, it gives you the foot candles. This here on average is about, you can see over here, about 30 foot candles. To give you a representation in terms of, if you've ever been again to Triton, the design there was a 50-foot candle for the high school field. The tee boxes are 20-foot candles, and then out in the driving range area, that is on average a 10-foot candle.
So there's roughly, am I right? Oh, okay, good. So there's roughly, am I? See, I just added them all up.
Yeah, we're trying to do that for you.
So it's 27, 35, 38.
That's your name, right?
Are the 38? And again, the lumens from each?
It's going to vary depending on what the target area is that we're trying to light from that pole. So some of them, the tee boxes, we have 5 fixtures spanning out to light the tee box area. The poles along the driving range area, we have 4 fixtures. Parking lot, driveway, we have 1 fixture. So it really depends on what the area is that we're looking to light.
Poles with 101 luminaires. Some of them as much as 6. So obviously.
Yeah, that's the T1 pole.
So you have 6 or 3, 3, 3.
Yeah.
Those are the brightest.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look at page, sorry, I keep stealing this on you. My printout's over there. If you look at the third to last page, you can see what we call our zero grid, which covers the foot candles across the whole area and beyond. There's a lot of grid points there. You need a magnifying glass, but you'll see that any grid point along any one of the property lines is 0 foot candles. So there is 0 impact to any of the abutting properties. All the light is contained to this property. And again, that has to do with the mounting heights being at 50 feet. If we're to go any shorter than that, those numbers are going to go up because then we have to change our aiming angles. Because at the end of the day, we still have to aim light out in the middle of that driving range.
So you're suggesting that if we want to get a good idea of what this might work like, we go to the superintendent at Triton and ask him to turn the lights on?
That's metal halide, so that's the next technology over. Those poles there, just to give you a reference, the tallest one there is 90 feet. The shortest one is 70 feet. So,
And
yes.
that's at Triton?
That's at Triton, yep. So that'll give you an idea of what the lights look like, but
But you're talking LED lights.
we're talking LED lights.
So if that's not the best example, where is the best example where we can go and see this?
Weston,
Not great.
if you want to look at a driving range with LED lights, it would be Leo J. Martin.
Leo J.
driving.
Martin?
Yep. We did the LED lights all along. They have wood poles with netting all the way down the
How long has
sides.
that been up?
A year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they use that in the winter for cross-country skiing, and then it's driving range in the. No, there's no snow. But those are about the same height. You would also see the ball tracking fixtures, and if you're driving down the road, you're going to look at that. You're not going to see that source of light. You're also not going to see that ball tracking fixture because those are mounted at 25 feet, so it's above that line of sight. But it's where it picks up that void that you lose from the cutoff with the LED fixture.
Well, this has been very helpful.
So when you say 0 candles,
Yes.
if I'm standing here looking that way, what do I see?
Those
I
are
understand they're not coming into my,
correct. So that's 0 foot candles is holding your light meter and saying, I am reading nothing. If you look back at any one of these poles at 50 feet, depending on where you are and where that fixture's aimed, you might see some of that fixture, that light source.
right, but it's not going to be facing towards me.
Now, if you look at the last page, that shows you what the orientation is of each one of those fixtures. So everything's aimed down the driving range, which is where you're hitting. So from a golfer, you really don't want light shining in your eyes as you're trying to hit. So everything's aimed down and away. And then same with this green area here, everything's aimed straight down, but idea is that even this fixture here, you're not gonna have that glare source because we have that 50-foot pole aiming that light down. And again, these parking lot poles are shoebox, so those, all they do is aim straight down, they're not aimable. So
Right.
they just light below.
And how much flexibility do you have once you put them up? You know, once you play around to make sure it lights what you need, but
Sure.
you're trying to keep the neighbors happy too.
Yep, so everything that we design here is based that pole off of where it ties into your 0, so everything's designed using the CAD file in terms of locating and aiming our fixtures. It's done in the factory to within a 100th degree. That being said, if we come out on site after everything's installed and somebody sees a fixture that's really offensive to them, we have lots of flexibility in terms of dropping.
Just to give you an idea.
So this is basically what a fixture looks like. You see the set screws here? That's aimable. So we can drop that front shield so that you don't see that source of light. The back of this is all heat sinks. This has glass over it. So there's two different visors depending on, and then on top of that, this can be aimed as well. So there's lots of adjustments that can be made, and part of what we do for our warranty too is we're guaranteeing the light levels. So we're guaranteeing that we're maintaining that 0-foot candle of the property line as part of our warranty.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I had some further questions, but they're related to larger issues, so hold that.
I like not being a large issue.
Mr. Chairman, before we go on to the rest of our presentation, the last thing on lighting. The applicant's proposing lights out in the fairway driving range at 9 o'clock sharp on a timer. And the remainder of the lights for the parking lot and the driveway shortly thereafter to allow for the employees to leave roughly at 9:30. I suggest if we want to ask questions or talk about that, we do before we get into the next portion.
I mean, it's all a question of the timing of the lights. I get that.
So the last portion of...
I have a question, excuse me. You mentioned before about the machine that goes up to pick up the balls running after 9 o'clock. Does that need light, or is that its own headlights?
We wouldn't pick out after 9,
Okay,
so we would stop and pick up the remainder of the balls if there was any out there in the morning.
So, condition of approval, more than happy to no ball picking after lights out.
good.
Lastly, I referred to this a while ago. Attorney Rosen has prepared, I think it's a 12-page memo addressing each of the criteria set aside in section 97. We have copies that would hand into you now, and I leave it up to the board to decide whether or not you want to read this, ask questions, or have me go through item by item.
Difficult to say.
Mr. Chairman, I actually do the same thing you do, and I love how you open the meeting to me. The very first thing I do when I meet with a client is I pull out the bylaw, and I look at the criteria, and I want to understand what it is that our goal is and what our job is in coming before a board. And I also want the client to understand what the legal standards are, so that they know as an attorney that I'm doing the correct job and I'm doing the right thing for them. So I template out every hearing that I do the same way, and I go through, and the first thing I do is I pull the zoning bylaw out, and I lay out in grid and a template of the regulations, and I make the client go through them with me, and to the best of their ability, show me how they meet each of the criteria, using their engineers, their professionals, and their other experts, so that we can put together in a comprehensive fashion in writing for it.
No, I think we ought to read it and then take it to the next meeting.
So I think, Michael, I think we're of the mind that we'd like to read it ourselves, and then the next meeting we'll just go over it with you, and if we have any differences, we can do that.
Would you like Mr. Reed to go through just a
Want
quick
to do
walk
some-
on any of the
Yes.
key points?
Yes,
Okay.
that would be fine, rather than go through the, because I think we do need to go through every item. but I'd rather not, why don't you just
Cut me off if I'm doing too much, please.
Sure.
Item A1, minimize volume cut and fill. We've got pretty much a balanced site. We're not letting anything leave the site with the exception of the trees themselves, not the stumps, but the trees. We are bringing in material to do the parking lots, the drainage systems and whatnot, but no fill bringing in the site, no fill leaving the site. The next one was an issue that the selectmen actually asked us to do, and we got a response in here. They agreed to let us go out there and do an audit of trees within a 1 acre plot. We actually had the ability to do a 1 acre plot, plus we had areas on the site that were roughly an acre already and found there to be approximately 56 12-inch trees or greater per acre.
Right.
This section deals with that and then extrapolates what 6 inch.
That's fair, that's good procedure.
A3 is minimizing wetland vegetation. We've outlined here what we're allowed to do by law and what we have done. A4 talks about soil erosion. They are shown in the site plan, reviewed by the peer review consultant approved last night at Concom, and subject to further review when they file the NPDES. Since there's NPDES, there's actually NPDES. A5, threat of air and water pollution. We're stating here that there will be, there's no source of air pollution here, and that the water pollution is regulated under DEP stormwater management guidelines, all 10 of which were met, and again, Conservation Commission reviews that and approved it last night. A6 talks about traffic congestion, gives you some data from the ITE traffic manual on traffic counts specifically for driving ranges that perfectly fit into the characterizations here, where there are sometimes there are learning lessons, what do we call those? Golf lessons for children or kids or whatever. Sometimes having refreshments, so it fits perfectly in here. We're showing that peak hours are on a weekend, which is the highest. It's about 53 cars per peak hour, and stand by our assumptions that on average throughout the work week we'll have probably 10 to 15 cars per hour coming in the evening. The next one is removal of existing stone walls. We actually do have one stone wall, brown is on the ground that traverses the center of our property. And we've agreed to reuse them on site in various locations, so none of the existing walls, one of them goes right through the middle of the range.
Is that what you're proposing to use for riprap?
It can be used for riprap, it could be used at a boundary, at the tree clearing line. There's a lot of stone wall in that one wall, so I'm quite sure it'll be used in multiple locations. The next one is adequate stormwater management and utilities consistent with the requirement of the bylaw. Again, the applicant has complied with all the DEP stormwater management standards, all 10 of which were reviewed by the peer review consultant and unanimously approved last night by the commission. The next one is safety for pedestrians, vehicles both on-site entering and egressing it. We're stating that we'll comply with that section, maximum safety for pedestrians and vehicles both on-site and entering onto and egressing from it. At this point in the location of Scotland Road, there are ample sight lines and distances in the shoulders are adequate to accommodate the traffic. This portion of Scotland Road is not commonly used by pedestrians, with the vast majority of traffic being vehicular. There is ample on-site parking on the property, and the location of parking is distant from both the road and recreational facilities. Mr. Rosen is in possession of some traffic detail numbers that we got from various sources, one being the Merrimack Valley Planning Association. If that data is helpful to you, we'd be happy to turn that in for your review on that.
Just a minute more.
This is a 2015 study on just east of Route 95 on Scotland Road.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want extra copies to circle?
Thanks.
You're welcome.
The next issue is adequate access for fire and emergency. And Mr. Sorensen met with Douglas Garvin, the fire chief, and he has had no concerns regarding this, and actually, we had a letter from the chief. Did we hand that letter in
It's attached to my summary.
at the end of this? So that's at the attached from the fire chief himself. The next one is minimize the obstruction of scenic views from publicly accessible locations. The key points here is that the driving range is approximately 600 feet from the nearest point on Scotland Road. And that the applicant intends to actually enhance the views by the creation of both of these greens and doing some cleaning up of some of the unkept portions of this site. Is that a good way of putting that? Next one is to minimize visual intrusion by controlling the visibility of parking, storage, etc. Long dissertation there, much of which I've already gone over with you tonight, so you can feel free to read that. That's a rather lengthy one, but it's everything that I've covered here tonight. The next one is minimizing intrusion of glare, which you just heard a presentation on. The next one is minimizing reasonable departure from the character, materials, and scale of buildings in the vicinity. Site was designed with a proposed. Getting dry mouth there, I'm sorry. The site was designed with a proposed tree-lined cluster, which would shield the putting green, shipping green, driving range, parking lot, golf pro shop from adjoining properties. The buildings on the property were designed to minimize the scale as viewed from Scotland Road. They're all single-story footprints of less than 1,500 square feet. The height of the golf pro shop and shed being 15 feet. The tee box facility will have a roof on a portion of that at 20 feet. Further, the driving range center is situated on a substantial distance from Scotland Road, as it's covered for about 600 feet from Scotland Road. Contamination of groundwater from any source is repetitive from comments I've already made. Enhance the appearance of the property to the greatest degree possible by means of landscaping and other site measures. I believe we've gone over that in great detail. You can feel free to read. Minimize the impacts of the use of adjacent properties through regulation of hours of operations, delivery, noise, rubbish removal. We've gone over some of that here tonight. I think you can read the rest of that at your own leisure. Ensure compliance with the provisions of the new rezoning bylaw, including parking and sign, and we have complied with that section, including parking and the signs as details on both of those issues within the site things that you've already been in front of you. And that is pretty much it. So I would, if you get any particular questions that stick now, please ask.
Were you going to make any other comments, Michael, or basically, okay. Board members have any specific questions you'd like to raise at the time of anyone?
One question I have is on the stump dump. As wood rots, the surface soil rots, so you have a potentially dangerous situation for animals and trespassers. Would you review that, just have a situation, if that happens, will you go up and refill that potentially every time it's needed?
Yeah.
Good.
So I had a couple of things that I wanted to clarify for myself. And a lot has to do with the topo changes. If I'm not mistaken, Scotland Road's roughly 25 elevation, 26, something like that.
Perfect.
And the Carbonis are roughly 50.
Very good.
And your driving box is in the 70s? Somewhere around there.
74 to 78 varies.
And then the various areas where the lights will be located are on the northern part, or the southern part of the property. Look like they're in the 70s or 80s.
So you've got lights on this edge and
Right.
lights down in here.
So what I've been doing is trying to figure out, okay, first of all, the elevation of the heating box is roughly 25 feet higher than the Carbonis, and it's roughly 50 feet higher than Scotland Road. That the light stanchions 50 feet on top of that are going to be 125 feet high, which is really quite high. I mean, you've got 38 structures that have lights on them, and the majority of them are at a height which is substantially higher than the Carbonis property and substantially higher than, and I know all these abutters to the south have said things are okay, but we don't know what's going to happen in the future to their property and who might buy it, and some people might have real problems with the light. But it just seems to me that there's an awful lot of light structures there that will, because you're going to be looking right up into them. And it's not like they're at a certain level, they're at 138 feet high, which is not Fenway, but high. And all of a sudden it hit me that as you were talking, that if you have a cluster of 4 lights, even if some of them are, or they're all focused down, that if you're down on Scotland Road, or if you're in Laura's property, you're going to see those lights, no matter what. There's no way around it. Am I right?
No, I beg to differ. I mean, we actually can calculate what the candela reading is, which is the intensity of glare.
So elaborate.
You can calculate any one grid point, how much of that light you're going to see at any one point. And the most you're going to see from any one location is right here, and that has to do with these lights here.
Those 4 on the 4 down there.
Yeah.
But so let's take the Carbonis for a second. They're roughly 600 feet from the lighting box, and you've got lights there that are 50 feet high, 50 or 25? 50.
Yeah. These are 25.
Okay, so 25 on top of an elevation of 75. So they're at 100. The Carbonis are at 50. That's a 50-foot differential between their human, where they are at sea level, if you will, or at their level, and the light. You're going to see the light. How can you not see the light?
Because it's not aimed towards spread it out.
Can I ask a quick question as well, if you're gonna, as you answer? Can you also explain what impact all of the trees along the property line and surrounding the property?
I'm
will
talking
also have?
winter. I'm not at all talking about
We're gonna have
summer.
very limited hours in the winter for lighting. I mean, we're not gonna be open until 9 o'clock. I mean, it's really weather dependent. So it's gonna be very, I mean, if you get a nice day, obviously, but it'll be very limited winter hours for lighting.
But I mean, I'm trying to answer some of the questions that both the Board of Selectmen and we have to answer in terms of whether or not these uses are intrusive. I don't think a driving range is intrusive. I think the lights are. And I think that it changes the character of a roadway, which the planning board over the years has looked at as a agricultural and residential district. I think that you can fit in something like a driving range, but I think the lights become intrusive to the character of this area. I mean, it's right across from the common pasture, which is a regional resource for the area. And it just changes the character of this road substantially. So that's one point that I'd like to make. The second point is, I wonder if you could go through and get me A9. All right.
This one?
Yeah. So I was struck by your sign, Newbury Golf Center and Ice Cream. So you've made a strong argument that this is an ancillary use.
Actually, we haven't made the argument that it's an ancillary use. If you read the memo, the legal memo.
Oh, okay, that is
submitted,
somehow permitted us.
Ice cream actually stands are an allowed use under this particular zoning district.
I'm not sure if I agree.
Well, there are others that are allowed to do the exact same thing on the same stretch of road.
There
in the
are,
same
there are
district.
others who grow product, and in growing their product, they sell that product, and ancillary to that growing of that product, they also sell ice cream. This just sells ice cream.
But the sale of ice cream under your bylaw doesn't have to be ancillary. It's an allowed
Okay,
use.
I'll accept that. But this function looks like it's just as important as the golf center.
You can change the sign, you can make it.
No, no, but I'm getting at the intent. That you brought something forward to us that is supposed to be a golf center, and at least in the way you're portraying it to us, it's a golf center and an ice cream shop. Equally important. And they're not.
No, they're not.
So I'm not sure how to read that. I mean, I just think that it tells me something about maybe what your intentions are that maybe I don't understand. So I think that that's bothersome, and I think I'm not convinced that your argument, Michael, on the ice cream as being the exact same as Colby Farm or Tender Crop or the others is the same.
So the others can import product from other states.
Because they have an
And sell it.
obligation, they have an obligation to sell stuff that they grow on site. And you're not growing anything on site, you're not an agricultural use. They are agricultural uses.
But they're not dairy farms. And they're selling ice cream imported from Maine.
And they're allowed to do that because they have a certain tipping point of how many products they can bring in, while at the same time selling a good amount of the products that they have, that they grow. There's another, one last point, and it's not a lot, it's related, and that's the access point up to the access road. I know it's the easiest thing to take the existing road and take it up. Did you at all look at the possibility of going to the right of, and away from the Carbonis, as far as you possibly could?
Mr. Weiss, that's a great question. It was actually brought up at the last meeting. I think the way it was framed was that somebody believed that we chose this because this was the cheaper alternative money, the driving force behind this. And I'll answer the question the exact same way that I answered whoever asked that question. Money never came into the decision. It was a really simple reasoning, and I'm going to explain that to you. This board well knows that in the past there have been subdivisions proposed. I've actually seen those subdivision plans. When Eric first came to me, we had a copy of those subdivision plans because they're helpful in finding out what the facts are about the site. When I'm looking through them, I was looking at grades on the roads that were being cut up through here, and I'm not sure if they were being cut up through here or not, but they had 12 to 14 foot cuts in through here. So somebody said, well, you just give me the argument about cost. The entire area across here, and I don't have it delineate on this plan, but certainly with conservation, is in a natural heritage wildlife protection district.
Yeah, I knew that. Hold on. What is that? What is that? Yeah, seriously, what does that mean?
Well, it means that it is protected area.
and that you can't build anything there?
So I can
Do you
explain.
know?
So in that area, there's either wildlife habitat or plant life that they're trying to protect. And any project that proposes to do work in this area has to go and file to
Oh,
actually Mass.
so it's not impossible, but it's difficult.
Right. And this project, we actually went and sat down with them.
Mhm.
And I can guarantee you, if we ever came in with 14-foot cuts through this
Okay,
area,
I got you.
they would have been.
I got you.
And actually, they signed off
I'd
on
heard
this.
rumors to that effect, but I wasn't sure.
There was a letter, and I don't know if it's in your file about that, we got a no take from them. They were thrilled with
Yeah.
what we did there.
So then, I guess maybe to the landscape architect. Um, If in fact, there's considerable amount of very attractive landscaping throughout, and I'm sure this is gonna be, would be a well landscaped and designed facility. I mean, I'm looking at the species that you're talking about, and it's really top grade stuff. But in terms of how you, and you're to be commended for talking to the Carbonis about putting some kind of screening, but we've just gone through a rather arduous issue about screening and other projects. And not in this bylaw, but in other bylaws that we have, we require screening from vegetation that is mature. Because now, even more so, I'm concerned about it because the Carbonis are at 50 feet and this thing's at 74. I mean, that is really difficult to screen. The other thing is screening cars as they're coming mostly out of the facility, and whether or not there can be a hook done in the way that the roadway exists, I don't know, but perhaps something could be done. But I think that, generally speaking, the landscape plan needs to be thought through from the perspective of the day that I open, I want to have no impact to my residential abutters in terms of the landscaping. And I know you've talked about black pine or white pine or something. Our experience has been spruce and arborvitae work a lot better because they're faster growing and really become instant, you know, and I'm sure it's no big deal. But so we suggest maybe sometime along as we get along in this very specific issues or talking to your landscaper and coming up with a plan. But first and foremost, if it is approved, that you have an input into what's going on. Okay?
And I've sat down with them.
Right, I know that. I know that.
Had that conversation with them.
So I am concerned about the lights. I am gonna go obviously to Triton and take a look. Anything else you can give me where I can go and take a look at, I'd like to do that.
I would encourage Leo J. Martin over
I
Triton,
can
just
do
so you get a better representation. Because that too has elevation change from the tee boxes to the top of the slope.
I lived right up the street.
But if you look at the back page of that photometric design that we sent to you, that you have in front of you, you would see that every one of those fixtures is aimed away from this area, the Carbonis, in terms of.
All right, I'll
where
go
the
take a
house
look,
is.
Leo J. And as far as I'm not sure what your answer is, maybe that's between you and our legal counsel on the ice cream, but either you have a driving range or you don't. I don't know. That's my opinion. That's not what you presented something here which is different. And those are my comments.
So I would point out that what we presented relative to use to the Board of Selectmen, we actually did try and address this issue. We did do a comprehensive survey of driving ranges in Massachusetts. We went onto the MGA website, we got a list of driving ranges, and we started calling them. And I believe, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to quote off my top of my head because I don't have it in front of me, but I believe we had determined that 37 of the 49, and we literally started doing it at 3 o'clock that afternoon with the hearing. but 37 of the 49 either sold golf-related accessories, ice cream, or both. I think the number was 29 out of 49, when we go back and look at
These are golf courses or driving ranges?
driving ranges.
Okay.
It's kind of, it fills in quiet time, it fills in off hours. And our belief is because it is a use permitted by right, that it's something that they could do there that would, draw people to the location. Eric's a PGA golf professional. His specialty is teaching students. He's got a special certification in that. And if you look at the design of the driving range, with all due respect, the amount of money that he's putting in for the pitching, the putting, and the features that he's putting into this driving range show you that this isn't like some of the other driving ranges that you've seen around that haven't stayed open very long with windmill, mini golf, and other things.
My favorite hole.
The last one, exactly. That this is being done in a professional way with input from the local golf courses, the local high schools, local PGA professionals who are here interested in creating a program that is going to last and be a career for Mr. Sorensen. He's giving up on other PGA obligations that he has to come here and do this. But at the end of the day, the goal is also to have a business that stays in business and doesn't go out of business. So that to the extent he looks at what is customary for golf ranges, and ice cream and accessories are two of those things. And again, we did research and presented it at the Board of Selectmen. To the extent it is a permitted use by right, it doesn't require that you grow the products on your property, and it doesn't require that you grow them in Newbury. It requires that you grow them locally.
No, I know that. Like that. You can maybe, right. Jeff?
I think what we all have to understand is John's done a very good job in kind of, showing you what could be a concern. Obviously, the board's trying to be as sensitive as it can to all the issues that occur, putting great respect on the planning board to kind of tell us, is it injurious or obnoxious, and sort through some of these issues as we put great faith in the Concom on the stormwater. So he's being very sensitive to some of the things that seem to be odd. I think you're going to have to do a lot of work probably with our town council, because that will be the other person that we're going to look to for the question of ice cream and the question of this.
Right.
So, this is the process, and we're trying to do the very best job we can for some of the folks sitting behind us, the people that want to sell the property, and Eric, who's coming to town to build something. So we're trying to do the best we can for everyone involved. So, and we're trying to remain as much to the letter of the law as possible. So it's going to behoove you to answer all these questions, because we're waiting for those questions to be answered.
Yeah, and I certainly appreciate that. I think what we talked about last time was the concept of a combined meeting. It's a shame that we couldn't have done it last
Well,
week
because we'll have it.
No, we're going to have it up.
It gives you time now. We'll be ready.
And hopefully town council will.
Right.
So my understanding on the use issue was that based on what was said at the Board of Selectmen meeting, town council was going to review the materials I submitted, town council was going to reach out to me, and that I was then going to coordinate any communication on the legal issue with and through town council. I guess I just felt compelled to point out the things that we did discuss on use last week.
And I think I'll
That's
have a
fine.
request to town council to watch this meeting so she's
Sure.
ready and prepared.
And maybe if we could ask when she shares her response that she share it with Martha, so Martha can circulate it to this board as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff, I was wondering if I could ask, it hit me as I was reviewing this stuff around 5 and reading through your document. That
And
one
remember,
thing-
I can't speak for my board, I'm kind of speaking for the
Yeah.
ethic of what we're trying to
Right,
accomplish.
and maybe, so it was the issue of revenue, tax returns. And I don't know that Michelle has done an estimate about what the revenues might come from this project, and I'm wondering if we can ask.
That would be a question for maybe town administrator, and I don't
Right,
know why you
yeah.
can't ask.
I think I'll just ask. Because then we can compare that to the 3 to 5 single-family units that could be built as a matter of right, as far as I know.
Pardon me?
How
Depends
many?
on the type of development, you could have as many as 27.
Yeah, but I thought that only three things perked.
Well, we're looking, we've got there's a treatment plant that is being considered.
Huh. Who we've been talking about?
We've been at
your replacement.
All right. Let me, because it's kind of out of hand, because we shouldn't be having these
No, we shouldn't. I'm
conversations like
sorry.
this, but that's interesting. Thank you.
Those comments were not on behalf of this.
Yeah, I get it.
Could I ask you a question about the traffic study?
Yes.
Okay, so the traffic study indicates that there'll be about 50 additional vehicle trips in the area. Now, that's based on the driving range having 41 Ts or something. So if we have now a driving range school program, and we have the ice cream, and we have the driving range, how does that affect your traffic study?
Oh, God, you did.
ITE study, the language, I don't know if I have it, the first page says this is applicable to driving ranges that usually have refreshments, i.e.
Pro shop and food refreshment.
Pro shop and lessons. It's a carbon copy of what he's doing. The ITE manual for driving ranges only provides peak hour traffic. Like many of the other items in ITE, they'll provide average daily. They do not do this for driving ranges. They give peak hourly for weekdays and peak hourly for weekends. Peak hourly for weekends was 53. Peak hourly for weekdays was 50, I believe. And the other hours that we've offered up generally believe from other golf range experiences that you're looking at probably 10 to 15 cars on average per hour in non-peak hours.
And the parking lot's going to be 75 cars, 75.
And we believe that that size parking lot is adequate considering you potentially have 40 Ts filled, people working in the pro shop, potentially in the ice cream shop, and that nobody will have the desire to park in Scotland Road. And certainly we're very amenable to the condition for no parking in Scotland Road.
Martha?
Maybe just a quick one. It's kind of more of a heads up than anything else. This isn't a pedestrian road necessarily, but road bikes, this is a major road bike byway. And they're flying when the wind is at their back and they're going east. And I mean, you know, like 20 miles an hour, these guys are going without, you know, an effort. So it's a very popular road for bikes. So just, I don't know what you could do, but just heads up, make sure people are aware to look for a bike coming, you know, before they pull out.
We haven't really heard from anybody from the community, and we want to know if anybody wants to say anything at all.
I just want to say I thank you very much for all the concerns that you've spoke about tonight. All of those concerns are my concerns, being that direct abutter, dealing with the road, dealing with the tree line, dealing with the cars coming in and out. Today, when they were down at the bottom of my driveway doing the drainage site, granted, they were parked in between the two houses, but for me to get out, even the traffic coming down in a simple day, you know, it took me a few minutes to get out of my driveway to go towards 95. So those are huge concerns of mine, being on Scotland Road, having this next door to me. But I thank you, because you addressed everything that I've been trying to get at as an advice. Thank you.
Jeff, Alicia, anything you want to add? Anyone else? So then, I guess we need a vote to continue. Need a motion.
I moved, what's the time, 7:15?
7:15, Jeff?
7:15 for you guys.
Yeah, no, wait a
No,
minute,
no,
wait a minute, no,
7:45.
we got something.
7:45.
7:45.
We got Annapolis Way.
The 8th.
No, what do we got?
Oh, yeah, that was what, yeah.
And that's a joint.
It's a joint meeting. Okay.
And if for any reason that's wrong, change it to the right one.
So 7:45.
We'll figure it out tomorrow.
Give you a second. I move to continue this public hearing to Tuesday, August 8th at 7:45 p.m.
Second?
Second.
Any comment on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question. Will he be coming back at the Board of Selectmen meeting or no?
We can have him come back.
No, I mean, the rest of the board didn't hear it, so
I thought that was helpful.
I think.
This is a great community to come to.
I thought we recorded this.
I'll try to get the board to watch the planning board meeting.
Jeff.
Yes.
Hey, Mike, can we talk to you? No. You're off the
Thank you.
All right. All right, we have a couple of other issues. She's got some. All right. So zoning amendments for October.
I just want to say thank you again. Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Welcome. So, this is zoning amendments for October town meeting, special town meeting, right? Recreational marijuana moratorium. We have, what was sent to us, did everybody get it?
Yes.
What,
I have much information.
why don't you take over, George?
I will. There you go. I just happen to have some information here.
Good.
So,
Lead down there.
I sent out the wrong thing on the medical marijuana thing. I sent out the bylaw instead of moratorium on it, so we can pass that out as well.
You have one, so we have one for Peter.
Everybody's got one.
Wait, I think I need one.
I thought I counted some. What I put together after some research, I copied parts of the Chapter 344, which is the marijuana regulation and taxation issue. The first page is just a cover sheet. The second page that I added to that has some items underlined, but particularly with respect to, under J, a marijuana establishment, which is sort of an all-inclusive term defined as a marijuana cultivator, marijuana testing facility, marijuana product manufacturer, marijuana realtor, or any other type of licensed marijuana-related business. And I've also underlined on 4 of those places where the licensed business is identified. So that, I think, is very helpful to begin. It's strange, it starts off as 344, Chapter 344 of Massachusetts General Laws, and this section becomes Chapter 94G, another section that was brought in by 344. So I'd like to read the whole of it. I haven't yet. On the next page, we have a outline of a moratorium agreement, well, not agreement, but a proposal, which was drafted in February and passed out. And that brings in, it talks about marijuana establishment and also talks about the retailers and distribution centers and so on, which really do not have to be cut out. And it misses some items that I think would be important to have. The next page is a local city prepared a moratorium on marijuana establishments. And that one I think is pretty complete, because it starts off with just marijuana establishments and carries that thought all the way through, because that's what you're really putting a temporary memorandum on, only because it includes all those items that we talked about in the prior proposal. I don't even want to take time to read it.
Yeah. I mean, am I right? Wait, before we rush on this, or I rush it, do we have 3 board members who can meet on the 2nd?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have to rush it.
Okay.
But we can read it. But what was Steve? Why don't you read it? It's only 1 page, right?
No, it actually carries on to another page.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's not-
All right, well, let's all read it.
I think it'd be good if the people who are watching this on television heard about it, hear it, and read it. So I can do that. The proposal would be a temporary moratorium on marijuana establishments by vote at the state election on November 8, 2016. The voters of the Commonwealth approved a law regulating the cultivation, manufacture, processing, distribution, sale, possession, testing, and use of marijuana. The law provides that it is effective on December 15, 2016, and that a new state agency, the Cannabis Control Commission, CCC, is required to issue regulations regarding the implementation by September 15, 2017. The zoning bylaw allows medical marijuana dispensaries by special permit.
So with, George,
Yeah.
when they wrote that, they were referencing their own?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But we do have a medical marijuana bylaw which is in existence, and that is not affected by this new law. The regulation of other types of marijuana establishments, however, raises novel and complex legal, planning, and public safety issues. The town needs time to consider and address those issues, as well as the potential impact of the forthcoming Cannabis Control Commission regulations, by means of a comprehensive planning process to consider amending the zoning bylaw to regulate marijuana establishments. And the temporary moratorium provided is intended to allow sufficient time for the town to engage in such a planning process and to adopt suitable zoning bylaw provisions in a manner consistent with sound land use planning objectives. It's dry in here. Marijuana establishment shall mean a marijuana cultivator, marijuana testing facility, marijuana product manufacturer, marijuana retailer, or any other licensed type of marijuana-related business, subject to regulations under Chapter 94G of the Massachusetts General Laws, provided, however, that a registered medical marijuana dispensary shall not be deemed to be a marijuana establishment. The reasons set forth above, and notwithstanding any other provision of the zoning bylaw to the contrary, the town hereby adopts a temporary moratorium on the use of land or structures as marijuana establishments. The moratorium shall be in effect through a date that's established. And during the moratorium period, the town shall undertake a planning process to address the potential impact of marijuana establishments and other related land uses and structures, consider the Cannabis Control Commission regulation regarding marijuana establishments when they are issued, and shall consider adopting a new provision of the zoning bylaw governing the location, operation, and effects of marijuana establishments for consideration by the upcoming annual town meeting.
Okay, so it's pretty clear that the registered marijuana dispensary, which is what we approved 2 years ago?
Yes. That's not
is not affected by this. And this is only about the medical marijuana establishments.
No.
No.
This is about the temporary moratorium.
That's right. But for the term is not the dispensary, but the
This rules everything out.
temporary moratorium on the use of land of structures as a marijuana establishment.
But marijuana establishment is.
That's everything.
That's everything, excluding medical marijuana.
Excluding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. It's an all-encompassing thing, which is what we need if we're gonna have the moratorium. Have you had any discussions about this?
No, but I've been thinking about it. I didn't know, I think the board does need to discuss it.
Well, maybe if we draw something up, it'll, get it going.
I think it's a good idea. I
Yeah.
think right this summer, we've got a lot going on, but I think maybe after these couple of public hearings.
Well, it's been recommended, the time. it's
So
been
the dilemma
recommended
has,
that-
why don't you go over the time frame?
Right, so it has been recommended because the state is eventually going to move forward with something. We don't have any idea what the regulations are going to be at this point, but it has been recommended that we get a moratorium in place no later than the fall town meeting to protect us going forward. And because under Mass General Law, there's a very tight time frame within which to get zoning amendments passed. So basically, working backwards from the September 24th special town meeting date, we effectively have to, the planning board has to refer it to the selectmen, who would then refer it back to the planning board for public hearing. So that would have to happen basically at the August 8th meeting.
We have a
timeframe.
special time meeting September 24th?
October 24th, October
Oh,
24th, if I said
okay.
September, I'm just going. It's
That's okay.
October.
Okay. Yeah, then I'll have it, Tracy put on the agenda.
Yeah, so I talked to her about that, and so what the planning board needs to do would be a vote to refer it to you guys, but we can't put the discussion off any further. We're going to try to keep it.
If it has to go before town meeting, we can't wait till the spring, as we,
It's
so
been
everybody
recommended.
will get inundated.
You could, but we thought
The
that
better you
6
get this
months,
in place,
the
the
sooner you better.
Sooner be better,
So
I
you're
think.
protected.
Right, because I'm concerned that we might start getting applications.
Never know.
If we don't
You
have.
do know.
That's the whole point of doing this.
Right, and it's been recommended that it be in place originally, when this was proposed back February, in place for 18 months, so we sort of need to take a look at that.
Now, do you need any change in language here? Are you looking for any change in language, or are you ready to just use it?
It was just a couple of changes I made, I'm sure.
Here,
Yeah.
you take this, take this. This is the Reading language. Why don't you take that? Yeah.
And we need to change it to mesh with our bylaw.
Yeah.
Have the right process.
Flush.
Yeah. And I would suggest that Jenny review it.
Yeah, all you want.
So why don't we, so should have, do whatever changes you need to do and send it off to Ginny. Martha's gonna be gone for a week.
Yes.
So why don't we
She's
see
a
if we
good
can
sister.
get this done while she's away.
And then I can look at it.
And
as
then
soon
when you
as I
get back on
back.
the, you'll
Right, now
be
get
back
it in
on
place.
on the what, 28th or something like that? That'd be
Back
nice.
on the 27th, and then, we can have the language ready for the meeting on the 2nd.
That would be good.
I think that, okay, I think that's an excellent idea. And then to take the next look down the road for this a little further, once the state gets, wraps its head around what it's gonna contend with, what's the obligation, or what should the town of Newbury be doing? Is it through zoning? Or
Well-
just takes it aside?
There
There-
are options. I mean, the town could vote to ban it, or establish a bylaw, which would be a zoning bylaw to regulate it.
Well, have you followed the most recent things with the Senate and the House?
I have, but they're coming out with something that's basically dealing with taxation.
Right.
But they're also coming up with something Friday, I think. So what I heard was that there's a Senate version that is going to require, for all those towns that passed it, if you passed medical marijuana, and if you want to restrict it.
Recreational marijuana.
Recreational marijuana, and if you want to restrict it, you have to go to the referendum.
Right.
Right, that, I heard that too.
But if you're a town that voted against it, you can do it. Town officials can do it.
What did the town of Newbury, how did they vote, do
Passed.
you remember?
I think
It
it
What
passed.
what was our vote, do you know?
They passed it, approved it.
Oh, did it?
It was
I don't know the
approved here.
numbers, but.
So,
So it means we have to go to a referendum. And I don't know does that mean that the referendum codifies the land use regulations?
And I think, referendum to ban it or to do anything. Because originally the way the language is very ambiguous. if the town wanted to vote to ban them, to prohibit them, it was ambiguous whether it could be a town meeting vote or it had to be a ballot vote.
A ballot vote.
And so, recommendation from council was that it be both.
Right.
However, if it passed at one and failed at the other, then how do you reconcile that? So.
Been there before.
Well, I think that what I heard, and, you know, I heard on NPR, they were talking about it, that if the town approved, your town passed the recreational bylaw, and you wanted to ban it or not have it, it did have to go to a vote of its people, referendum.
Yeah.
And if it, or the opposite, if it did not pass it, if it failed, which Newbury didn't, then your town leadership could
do it. But about what I'm not sure in all of this is, if you want to develop regulations, you can't do that by referendum.
No, that's a zoning amendment.
That's just, I mean, the referendum is only up or down.
Right, I think so, yeah.
That would make sense.
But my, in the back of my head that's been ticking is, if this is coming our way, and I don't see how it's not coming our way because it didn't pass at the ballot.
Right.
I would like to see how the town of Newbury could get some taxation.
Sure.
And I don't know if that comes through zoning or if that's
You
something
get it
else.
by if the use locates it.
I think the rates are. set
20%,
Yeah.
20% tax?
I mean,
2% for the town.
Oh, is that right? It is?
Well, whatever it
There were
was.
like 4 different rates.
2%.
2%?
I think the thought was it would be similar to the local meal tax, which I think is 2%.
But Newbury doesn't participate in the local.
No, but it would be structured similarly.
Okay.
That-
So weed's gonna be 20% and booze is nothing.
Well, you don't want to make the taxation too high.
No
because
tax.
Oh, at the local
No,
level?
right, no
Yeah,
sales
but at the
tax.
state level, it's high.
Yeah, no sales tax.
Sin taxes.
Yeah, but that will
6.25%
drive
sales tax,
marijuana back
a
in the ground.
3.75%
dark.
excise tax at the state level, and an optional 2% local tax. Towns wishing to impose a 2% local tax on sales will presumably do so in the same manner as provided by the DOR with respect to the local meals excise.
Mhm.
But that means it's the DOR collects and it gives the town 2%.
Right. I don't know, how do you guys feel about that?
It's what you can get out of the statute.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, philosophically, do we believe we should have it?
Tax it.
Oh, I think we should be
Absolutely.
taxed, yeah.
Oh,
Sure. Why not?
Everybody else is.
All right, do we need a motion on this?
I
To have
think
George?
not.
We're not taking any action.
No,
Yeah.
just that it's gonna be the only item on our agenda for August
Most
2nd.
likely unless something else comes up. But,
And you'll review it with Ginny? Okay.
yeah, if you, I'll be taking my iPad with me so I can pass it on to Ginny.
Okay, good.
If you want to send it to me.
Sure.
So you're meeting on August 2nd and then again the 8th unless?
Mhm.
And this is the only item on the agenda on the 2nd?
Yeah,
just because of
it's
the
just
time-
all about
time.
timing. All about timing. We couldn't get it done tonight.
And if
Otherwise, we missed the town meeting.
Right. And if we did it tonight, it can only, the planning board can't submit it, or selectmen can't refer it back to the planning board any more than 14 days after it gets submitted to.
Because we hold the public hearing.
Okay.
Okay,
I will take care of it.
thank you, George.
George, I'm happy to look at it too.
Okay.
That'd be great, that'd be great. Report on Byfield Estates.
Is that the board meeting?
Yes.
It's great.
We're opposite you.
Yeah?
Did you find that interesting, when you first heard about the road connecting to Pearson? I first I heard of that.
Well, it's
We
when I.
just heard that.
Yeah, when I met informally with those two guys, several months ago, and the yield plan that they were showing had a cul-de-sac that pretty far exceeded what we allow under our regulations. So they said at the time, kind of offhand, and then maybe we could get an option on one of the Pearson Drive properties to take a through road through there. And he said, well, they are gonna have a 40B application before them, so I didn't know that they had actually gone ahead and done that.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's the first time we've seen anything on the board.
That's just another cut into Pearson Drive.
It's just another
It's gonna
cut.
burn that road.
The poor folks on Pearson Drive.
I mean, their intention is not to do that, it's just
Right.
to
To show for you.
To show.
labels they could actually.
They had to show what they
eventually.
could.
Right. But, I had bugs all over here.
Bugs all over here.
I did. I'm not,
You're seeing things.
No, I wasn't. Oh, I could have been. I could have been. So anything else? Well, we were at the meeting. George was there on Monday, and it was
Fairly uneventful.
fairly uneventful.
They continued it to the 31st, at which point.
This one?
Yeah.
This one, at which point hopefully they'll have more information, in response to the planning board letter.
Yeah, they haven't responded to it.
Paul and I think Doug, and some others met with Woody Cammett, who was their peer engineer, peer review engineer for the project, who raised some initial points of additional information that was needed, particularly regarding stormwater and septic. And that was really pretty much
Yeah.
it. There was no
We really
much
haven't.
discussion.
Our major points that we made relative to the quality of the developer and a number of other things have just not been addressed. But we assume they will. So we'll see what happens. Now, I will not be there at that meeting, so.
I'll be back. So.
Take it out again. Which is good for you.
So not much more on that. And the master plan process. Oh, here's something. So we have the community facilities section, and we have all of the implementation plan to the land use plan, which I think I'll send out to all of you, because you all participated in that process, for your review and comment, and we'll try to get it. And the sections that are missing are the transportation sections and the cultural and the other. And I'm not sure that we'll ever get those things together. I mean, I don't mean to be too negative, but I was thinking that maybe we could do it in bits and pieces or something. But I was going to start doing some photography for the master plan, and I was wondering if all of you, each of you, might have some photographs that you have or might want to take that relate to, just go through the plan: economic development, housing, land use, community facilities, parks, recreation. The elements. And if you have some photographs, send them in to Martha, and we'll incorporate them in so everybody can have a photograph in the report. It would be nice. Just think about it.
I'll bring out my trusty
Huh?
iPhone.
Newman Road.
There you go. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Is that coming off? No.
Later.
Later. Oh.
So is this a photograph of something related to a chapter or related to us?
Well, no,
Or both?
no.
Town,
It's
really.
it's mostly to the town. So if you do have a copy of the existing master plan, do you have a copy of the existing master plan? The hard copy from '06. Go through that.
Okay.
David Powell did that photography, and it's pretty good. And he's got pictures of Plum Island Beach and this and that. So.
Okay, yeah.
It's to make you feel good stuff about it,
Okay.
So, let's see if we can get something done in the next month or so and
Nice
get it to market.
of the church.
Hmm? Yeah,
Nice to get one of the
yeah,
church when the
that's
construction
that's a
is
good
done,
one. It's all sorts of, just think about it,
Yeah.
and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
Byfield Community Center.
Yeah, Byfield Community Center, right? The Old Woodbridge School, all that stuff is good stuff to put in the report, okay? Triton track that they just put in, the stadium. Anyway, so,
My front yard.
your front yard?
Yes.
Your front yard, little picture of, all right, I think we're done. Am I right? Because it feels like we're done, doesn't it? Can I have a motion to?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.